ideology getting jammed, you get poetry slam. Hello, poets and poetettes. It's your boy, Skinny Penis. No, I mean Something Guy 912. Back with a new intro, background music, and my very own slam sheet to easily weigh in on another dreck on modern literature. So I got myself a very special poet who not only can't count correctly, not only reiterates the same points from the list, but has set out to make All Lives Matter more of the boogeyman than Black Lives Matter makes cops the boogeyman by insisting that All Lives Matter doesn't account for the lives of black people, despite the fucking phrase saying All Lives Matter, and therefore is a greater threat to social equality and the rights of black people. How very nuanced and open to differing ideas, huh? Well, I certainly must be, because 3 of my previous poetry slams have all been dissing white people, with only one person as a black person. As you know, I'm all about that diversity, yo! So why not get one more black person in my sprawling list of shit poets with intelligence slips? As with the previous poetry slams, I will respond to the poem piece by piece, breaking down their arguments, because that's basically what these poetry slams come down to, and critique it based on message/context, structure/verses, transparency, and rhythm, with an overall score combining the scores from below. As a shit poster that I am, I will also include a shrill-o-meter for lols to see if they can break the sound barrier with their shrilly Marxist society. Now, give us that sweet, sweet list, T. Miller.
This is called 10 Things You Sound Like When You Say All Lives Matter in response to Black Lives Matter.
Oh yes, I did forget to mention the title of this poem being unnecessarily long, and also a fucking list of all things. Yeah, poems. Slam poems can be lists now, basically making frame and formatting a thing of the past for millennials. But I'm curious what I sound like when I say All Lives Matter in response to Black Lives Matter. Do I sound like a goat? A woolly mammoth? A Komodo dragon? The results could be endless!
Or, stop saying that stupid and sensitive ass shit.
I'll only stop if you do. But you do realize that All Lives Matter includes black lives in that category, right? Are you saying that only Black Lives Matter, or that they matter more to any other life? This is exactly why making a movement like this is so mired in confusion, because you can't discern between the idea that people don't think Black Lives Matter and whether you think they matter more in principle.
Alright, so 1.
Jesus Christ, you're reading this off a fucking piece of paper, have it listed, and you can barely get to the first thing on the fucking list. Practice makes perfect, dipshit.
Your family pet goes missing. You post pictures of it all around your neighborhood. I come and post pictures of other people's missing pets from around the world on top of the picture of your missing pet. Well, because you ain't the only one missing a pet.
Actually, if you wanted to accurately demonstrate the analogy, let's say you only post pictures of missing cats on the wall and say, Cat Lives Matter, and the All Lives Matter person puts pictures of missing dogs, ferrets, bunnies, hell, alligators, and say All Pets Matter. But this won't be the first time that you completely missed the fucking plot of the poem, as thinly veiled as it is. Also, I thought it was supposed to be what I sound like when I say All Lives Matter, not what you do in response to me saying All Lives Matter, in response to you saying Black Lives Matter. Fuck, dude, can you get one fucking thing right?
2, I show up to your grandmother's funeral and hands out my grandmother's obituaries. You ask why, cause nigga, you ain't the only one that's missing a grandma.
You didn't miss the grandmother, retard. She lost it. And secondly, it's the same bullshit analogy from the previous one on the list. But to go further into the idea of All Lives Matter, if the black lives are the most pertinent thing that must matter, guess what? All Lives Matter will be there in support of them. But guess what? Black people don't have it bad all the fucking time as you think so. I'm sure Will Smith and Kanye West don't need a fucking handout anytime soon.
4.
What? Are you fucking kidding me? You just skipped number 3, and you are reading this? Holy crap. Where's that stick they use in plays to take someone out when they do a horrible performance? Because this guy needs it.
I go into the hospital and change all of the intensive care unit signs to care unit signs, because every life in the hospital should be cared for just the same.
Again, I've stressed this. It'd be more akin to you insisting that someone with a scraped knee or headache should be given precedence over someone with kidney stones or a piece of rebar impaled in them, because that person who experiences the headache is black and the person with kidney stones is white. You aren't defeating all lives matter by insisting that they would gleefully ignore the care of someone with more issues than the next person. As I've said, they'd be most concerned with the person with the most pertinent of issues, regardless of fucking race.
What makes intensive care unit patients think that their lives matter more than the life of Jenny on the first floor fighting the cold? Codes can kill you too.
Well, let's see what makes me think of that. Am I a racist who thinks that Jenny's life mattered more because of the inflection of her skin? Or is it that the intensive care patient is getting a heart transplant or any equivalent medical procedure that is leagues ahead of concern? Choose wisely, Miller.
4.
Holy fucking shit! You literally just said 4 twice! Are you sure you can read your own fucking handwriting? Or is it typed out?
Your fiance stands you up at the altar, and as you're crying, I get up and yell, millions of people get broken up with every day. Stop whining about it.
Once again, this entire setup predicates on not examining the pertinent issue at the time. Are you getting broke up right now? No. And even if you will in future or experience some kind of trauma, you don't immediately get the shoulder to cry on because your race told you so.
5. I show up to the Alcohol Anonymous meeting to get help for my cotton candy addiction. An addict is an addict. We all deserve help.
Okay, but some people, believe it or fucking not, need it more than others. Bear with me on this, buddy. I certainly believe that I have an addiction to soda, wanting every day to get myself some sweet caffeine into my system, but potential diabetes get trumped over the possibility of losing your liver, livelihood, and relationships through alcohol addiction. Now do you fucking get it? Unless you can demonstrate to me that your cotton candy addiction is in somehow worse by comparison than an alcohol addiction, you have lost the plot of All Lives Matter in its entirety. It's not some kind of movement who wants to generalize every single's problems into the same problem. It's in direct response by people who think that other people don't think that Black Lives Matter. Just like how Not Your Shield was in direct response to feminists or social justice warriors who presumably stand up for minority groups under the guise of bigotry.
6, you say Kaylee Anthony. I say, what about her? We still don't know who killed little John Benet Ramsey.
Was that something even relevant to the argument against All Lives Matter? Are these people even real in this context? Okay, let's look these people up. So Kaylee Anthony and John Benet Ramsey are both little young girls who may or may not have been murdered by their parents. And I would say from looking at the Wikipedia articles in question, Kaylee Anthony's case could more than likely be caused by the parents. The one thing that T. Miller failed to mention in this scenario, however, was that the death of John Benet Ramsey was in 1996, whereas the death of Kaylee Anthony, as well as the court case against Casey Anthony, was in 2008. So the more relevant court case is obviously going to spur up more conversation. Apparently, according to Miller, she's really stuck in the past about things, huh?
7, I say Black Lives Matter. You say you don't see color.
That wasn't even close to being even remotely a criticism on behalf of All Lives Matter, nor something that they sound like, nor even a point of contention against Black Lives Matter. What exactly is the argument you are trying to make here?
8, I say Dallas. You say Blue Lives Matter. I say I thought you didn't see color.
Ooh, got them hook, line, and sinker on that lovely bait there, T. Miller. But what is the prevailing chant that we hear from Black Lives Matter? Oh yeah, that's right. Kill all cops! Not just the white cops, mind you, no. The black cops, the Latino cops, all the fucking cops. Now, don't get me wrong, I disagree with the idea of Blue Lives Matter being any more or less important than Black Lives Matter, but I can understand the sentiment and the reason why it has to exist to begin with, because there's a lot of people who think that cop lives don't matter over other groups. This is also not me saying that cops also don't get away with a lot of shit, but whether they're acting out their authoritarian ways, racially or otherwise, is completely up to scrutiny, and that if they do happen to stick their hand in the cookie jar without permission, let the courts decide that fate, rather than the bullets. Didn't think you would hear that from someone who advocates for All Lives Matter, right?
9.
Yeah, these little sycophants really do think that T. Miller just dropped the bomb on the other BLM and ALM, while these people are still the ones who see everything by the metric of skin. It's like flat earthers who believe the world is flat based on faith, and when scientists believe of the Big Bang through some or little evidence, the flat earthers go, "See, the scientists believe some great cosm created the universe based on faith. I thought you used science to get to your conclusions," thereby dodging the fact that they're still acting on faith with what they believe to begin with.
It sounds like when I say Black Lives Matter, and you say all lives matter.
What the fuck was that? No, really, what? So, number 9 on this stupid list, is that what I sound like when I say all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter? Is it what you sound like when you say Black Lives Matter in response to me making a response to you? This is turning into some response inception over here. It's almost like we actually don't have much in different, yet you're going to divide us anyway.
10, it sounds like when I say Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter. 10, it sounds like when we say Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter, it sounds racist.
Yep, you can't make this shit up. A group, or even just a reactionary phrase, that understands the rights and values of all people is somehow racist against a group that is only focused on the lives of one demographic, and not only that, determined to do so by making the lives of everyone else around them worse by comparison, including cops. Isn't it lovely when you have demonstrated how not racist you are, you can still be racist because that somehow isn't taking into account the oppression that people go through.
It sounds inhumane.
Nothing says inhumane like a group or phrase that values all human life and rights, not predicated on race or ethnicity or religion. It's fuckers like you who bastardize the concept of the civil rights movement, and movements like this that make Martin Luther King Jr. roll over in his grave. You think you're right there at the Washington Monument, hearing the words of someone who wants people to stop separating people on things they can't control, when in reality, you're the new Black Panthers, just wanting black supremacy above all other things.
Sounds like you trying to choke us with our own grief.
Isn't that what BLM does to cops and white people though? Make them guilty of something they didn't actually do, and choke them with that guilt until they cuck themselves with the progressive agenda? Also, emphasis on sounds rather than does.
Sounds like all lives matter, but when we say Rakia Boyd, Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Ayana Jones, Jessica Hernandez, Reese Walker, Kendrick Johnson, the people in fucking Flint, you say nothing.
Oh sure, no white person, no cop, no other race other than the almighty black race have talked about these people who I'm sure were kind and virtuous and never did any bad to deserve their torment. Or, if they didn't, probably did get outraged by more than your specific demographic. What about black people who kill black people more often than cops do, than white people do, than white people killing white people do, huh? You don't say a goddamn fucking thing, as you purport all lives matter not to. And could it be that some people don't even know the people you are referring to? And could it be that all lives matter have taken into account these people, but don't go up to the same extremes that you do when in regards to civil rights? But I'm sure your Twitter is blowing up about those people. I'm sure those likes and retweets will be well met by the families of the deceased, you social justice slacktivists. So that was T. Miller's unnecessarily long poem title, completely missing the point of All Lives Matter, completely missing the point of the title of the said poem, and completely missing the format of lists, for fuck's sake. Let's rate this. For message/context, I give it a flat 0. T. Miller doesn't seem to get the idea of All Lives Matter, inferring it to be the scary little racist boogeyman in blackface that all BLM people take it as, in a vain attempt to paint All Lives Matter as a group that collectively takes into account all the harm that people go through, despite how collectivist BLM is in comparison. For structure/verses, I give it a 4. While sure, list poems do exist, and they do help format a sort of theme or narrative, T. Miller is only using a list to cheapen the poem's worth, and can't even bother to stay on point, opting for phrases that are completely nonsensical for the musical flourish at the end that all poem slams have had so far. For transparency, once again, is a flat 0. Miller needs a little more introspection in not only the plight of the ALM movement, but of her own movement in BLM, as their attempts to coerce the public not to think of black people less have been to damage property, shriek like harpies, and send hits out on cops. Yeah, I'm sure that will convince people to your side, retards. And for rhythm, I give it a 0 too. You might think that's a bit unfair given how most of the other poem slams I have done are much more shrill than this. Remember that this fucker is reading a list poem off a piece of paper and still can't get her point across in a concise, fluid way. And let's not forget that she listed number 4 off twice without anyone in the audience raising a brow in confusion. So that brings the overall to a solid 1, making this officially the worst poem slam I have ever had the misery of listening to, making Alicia Chavez's poem better by comparison. Surprisingly enough, however, T. Miller is the first on this list to also get a solid 0 on the Strillometer, although I was tempted to do so at the latter parts of the poem. Unfortunately, that small consolation prize fails in comparison to how awful this poem is, if you can even call it that. See you next time on another new and improved Poem Slam.